Welcome to the Round 6 AFL Footy Wrap Up. This week's round is sponsored by Marvel Comics. That movie took about as long as this round took to get completed. The AFL decided to honour the fallen veterans by turning the whole round into a big cash grab for themselves, the clubs and the sponsors. This started on Wednesday night with a mockbuster between two teams not even in the 8. The Tigers managed to beat the Demons to get into 8th. I hope that nobody had such a sad life that this game mattered to them in any way. Then the real Anzac Day game was on. Essendon hosted Collingwood. You could tell that it was an Essendon home game because they thought some third-rate Perth band was the best way to mark such a solemn occasion. The players on both teams put in a cracking effort though. It was an instant classic with the third largest crowd of an Anzac Day game, 94,000. Other money-hungry clubs still want to jump on board now the concept is popular, idiotically thinking that they could fill up the MCG like this game can. Oh yeah, and Collingwood won, which we knew before the game started. And the Bombers fans showed what happens when you're third generation wealth. You have the intelligence of someone whose parents paid their grades and the way into school, and you have the looks of 3 generations of inbreeding that would make Tasmanians nervous. They booed the Anzac Day medal as well, showing the class of a typical Essendon supporter. Port Adelaide played North. North were in the hot seat all week after their poor start to the season. Subsequently, they put in a huge effort, but unluckily for them, they had to play Port, who were coming off the week's rest, that is, a game against the Eagles. Next up, we had the Q clash, so called because Q is the 17th letter in the alphabet, and out of the 9 games this week, it's about the 17th most interesting. They chose to play both Queensland teams at once against each other in what I can assume is a form of quarantine similar to what we do with Tasmania. Saturday afternoon saw the Crows play St Kilda. St Kilda have been going well this year, good enough to have better sponsors than they have. All game they kept showing blue tack ads on the billboards. Come on, even Footy Wrap Up gets better sponsors than that, and we only have 6 viewers. The Adelaide victory also visibly excited the Crow supporters watching the game with. That was awkward. Keeping up with the Q clash was Sydney's version, called the Battle of the Fridge. It's an annual tradition where Dud Franklin comes out with the body of a certain overweight Austin Powers villain and wearing a jumper so tight he looks like someone took an overstuffed sausage to Coachella and spray painted a Sydney jumper on it. This year the Fridge won and Dud Franklin didn't even play. Also, GWS flog the Swans every year, so that happened as well. Saturday night, the Dockers faithful watched their team win. They started talking premierships. I just want to say to those supporters, well done. But you beat Footscray, a team that technically doesn't exist, and also lost to Carlton last week. Carlton. So that's perspective for you. Speaking of Carlton, they played the Hawks this week. The Hawks had an interesting tactic. Don't do anything for 3 quarters, run out at 3/4 time and point out to the Carlton players that they're wearing Carlton jumpers, and then watch them implode. It worked. Next up, a decimated Eagles teams had to travel to Geelong. Yes, they had to travel. Been hearing about how unfair that is all week. Then they got flogged. To be fair, the Eagles players are still recovering from when they got their hair wet last week. Luckily, the AFL won't stand for the koalas not being protected and have scheduled Eagles to play Gold Coast, St Kilda, Melbourne, Footscray and Sydney all over the next 6 weeks, just to get them into some form. And that's a wrap for this week. Sorry it took so long, but after all that footy, we needed a break.